Watching Rogers TV.
This program is brought to you by Ignite TV. Now you're in command. Visit Rogers.com for more details.
Welcome to Rogers TV. This is Living Well and Giving Well. I'm Fred Wallace, along with my co-host Denise Reid, and this is episode number 2. Denise, why don't we introduce our guests for episode number 2 of Living Well, Giving Well?
Thanks, Fred. Our guests this week are Andrew Drury, who is a lawyer in Owen Sound, and as I've read in my notes, you're a Southampton boy.
Yes, spent a lot of time there, lived in various parts of Canada, but liked it around here, and when it was time for a job, I moved here.
And you've had a law practice in Owen Sound for quite a few years.
Yeah, I guess I'm coming up to my 40th year.
Okay.
Our topic today is all about wills, and we'll be talking to Andrew as well, but our other guest joining us again today, we welcome Stuart Reid, Executive Director from Community Foundation Grey Bruce. Let's talk about living well, giving well, and the concept and the goals of this program on Rogers TV.
Well, Living Well, Giving Well is our opportunity to share a little bit of conversation and knowledge about how families and individuals can have an impact on community when they're making their will and their estate plan. And we're going to be having all these episodes and guests from different charities and different bits of expertise about planning and conversation that can help families through these conversations and do something meaningful with their will when they're putting that together.
And can we talk about the Community Foundation just briefly and the organization and what you have under your umbrella that makes the Community Foundation so big and so successful?
Well, we're a philanthropic agency. We manage about $22 million in endowed assets. So we never touch the capital. We invest those assets and we create grants for not-for-profits and charities across our region. So we're engaged in all aspects of community life. And we really help families. We help people that want to give back. And so there's a lot of mechanisms that we have under our umbrella that people should know about, because we can assist and help them make an impact and make a legacy in their community too. And I refer people to our website, communityfoundationgraybruce.com, and there's some resources right on that site that can enhance your conversation with your lawyer or when you're going to do your will. There's some tip sheets and things like that, resources that I hope people can take advantage of. So we want to be facilitating these kinds of conversations with more and more people.
So when you're looking at a will or deciding, to me it's a little daunting and a little, a will, am I, needing to have that or not? To me sometimes it's a little bit on the sad side, having a will, but maybe it's not.
It's a tough topic, and I think a lot of people would like to avoid it, to be honest. It's a hard conversation to have with your kids when you're making these plans, because you're relying on them to step forward as the next generation. It's something a lot of people put off, and we get those calls, and sometimes we have to say it's too late. The person is no longer competent. You have to be competent and able to give clear instructions to make a testamentary document, and that can be a real problem if it's too late.
So, even you have to be of sound mind, competent in that, and it's very important to talk to your family.
It is, and there are a lot of, I'm finding, with the baby boom generation now as seniors, we deal with a lot of seniors, and a lot are estranged from a family member perhaps. They've maybe got some challenges, physical, mental. There's undue influence. There's a lot of concerns. If you go into a bank, they will tell you the same things. They're concerned about seniors and financial abuse, a lot of checks and balances there. And it's something we watch for in our business too. So it's not just making the will. You have to know the family, you have to know the environment, you have to have some idea what the influences are on them. Are they being even-handed? If they're not being even-handed, is there a reason for it? Because, quite frankly, you may be called to court at some point in time to give evidence on these things. So there's a lot in the background.
I apologize, Andrew. I giggled when Stuart said that you were our lawyer. You're not. I went with Alex Wade, I'm sorry, and I got my will done in my early 60s. How late was I? When should I have started to get my will done?
I think most people, as soon as they are out and working, out of school, should consider that. Because if you're, say, a single person out of school, you're starting your first job, you need powers of attorney. If you're alive, but you can't give clear instructions, someone has to be your power of attorney for medical and financial. So if you're in the hospital because you hit a tree while on your bicycle, your parents might be there, your girlfriend might be there, but you need a legal power of attorney for the bank, and the doctors may also want that. So the same with a will, you're starting to acquire assets, and if you don't have one, it becomes an intestate court application, and it may end up going to people you don't want it to.
So I was about 40 years too late, is what you're saying.
Yeah, you're not far off.
Why is it so difficult to get started, as Denise said, and why is it such a difficult topic to talk about your will with your family?
Mm-hmm. Your kids don't want to have this conversation to start with, that you're going to be gone someday, or you're going to be in the hospital and unable to communicate. It's just something you have to soldier through. So the big thing is, I think, to get the people in charge whose judgment you trust, hand it over to them and don't worry about the details. We have a lot of very detail-oriented people, and I'm not a big fan of micromanaging myself. You know, put the people in charge as your power of attorney or as your trustees, state trustees, executors, and let them take care of it. Make the gifts, tell them to donate to charity, do whatever. So, but you have to start that process for sure.
I find it interesting, you know, I have my will. My husband and I both have our wills, and we went a long time with, I guess we need to update that. And do you get that a lot where people originally, we did it when our lawyer gave that to us when we bought our first house. He did up our wills for us and said, well, I don't think we updated it for 30 years, and that's not good as well.
It depends on the circumstances. I generally think there's probably 2 to 3 stages where you should have it. When you're first in a relationship and having assets, jobs, children, because you can put in the guardians of the children in the will. And then maybe at retirement, your kids are grown, they're going to step forward now and take the reins should something happen to you. And then maybe later on, you might want to tweak it, but 2 times anyway. That would be a good idea.
I think the sad reality is that people don't want to think about it and don't do it until later. And we need to, it's very important to do it right away. And I think it's important, as we've talked about and why we're here, living well, giving well, that there are lots of opportunities in a will to not only take care of your family, but also take care of any organizations you have a passion for or whatever it may be.
You know, if you live in a small community like Grey Bruce, you know the community runs on volunteers, and we all volunteer in our lifetime, organizations, coaching, whatever, and in the will, you can continue that. You can make a donation to your favorite charity, church, organization, whatever, and it's a good way to do it. You know, you get a tax credit for it for your estate, and it's not costing you anything, it's costing your kids a little bit.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, why not?
Remember when they banged up the car?
This is Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers Grey Bruce. I'm Fred Wallace along with Denise Reid. Stuart Reid from Community Foundation Grey Bruce is with us, and we're talking all about wills with barrister and solicitor Andrew Drury. In your own experience, Andrew, how many people with the wills that you're dealing with have actually made that step to have a provision for a charity or an organization that they would like to support after they've passed?
Unfortunately, it's a minority. A lot of people will say to me, because we always ask, we go down through our checklist, okay, would you like to make a donation before we get to specific legacies, maybe to certain family members, and then the residue being divided between other family members and spouses. And we always ask, is there a church, charity, organization, something you would like to donate to? And a lot of people say yes. They do have something that's near and dear to their heart, and they would like to give something to continue to assist with that. But probably most people say no, they've done it in their lifetime. They're not certain what they're going to leave to their family, so they kind of prioritize that.
That's interesting. It's kind of the opposite of what I thought it would be, that it would be family first and then charity, but you approach them and say, are there charities and organizations that you would like to support in your passing?
Yeah, that's the first thing, because that's generally a specific gift, what we call a legacy, a specific cash amount. Some people do leave part of the residue to charities. They might say 10%, something like that, but generally they mostly have a specific amount in mind, in the hundreds, thousands, whichever. So it does vary.
I think that's hopefully what we're going to try and encourage. When you're making a will, to be able to think of where you would do besides your family. We always want to take care of our family, of course, but we also have had relationships in our lives, whether it be organizations or where we volunteer. We talked to Stuart about this last week, that volunteering really gets you a passion for whatever it may be, and that can encourage you or give you an opportunity to give, and a will is a perfect opportunity to do that.
I think our willpower effort as well, there's a lot of statistical data that they're gathering about what's happening in Canada, and some good news is that only 5% of Canadians made a gift in their will to charity when we started, and that's shifted to 8%, and that's really interesting that more people are beginning to consider that. So we'd love to see that much higher. There's also a lot of new products on the market that make it easy. Some online programs. The willpower is associated with an online will generator called Epilogue that a lot of young people are taking up the opportunity to make a plan for themselves, at an earlier stage in life. That there's some speculation that might be part of that 3% swing. So I was interested to talk to Andrew just about that, kind of generational change, things that he's seen over his career in terms of.
I was kind of wondering that
yeah.
too. Are you finding that if the young kids are young, I call them young kids, so what is young?
Yeah, unfortunately,
kids? Okay.
the bar changes, doesn't it?
It's all in perspective here. But the younger generation, if we want to go that way, are they doing it on their own? Do they do it on their own, or they just don't even think about it either? Are you finding more, I would like them to be going to their lawyer to do it, but are you finding that they're doing it on their own?
Yeah, I would agree with Stuart that that is a trend, and it's easy to do, and it gets them started. As life goes on and their lives become more complex, then they may want to see a lawyer and an accountant for more details and depth. But yeah, I think it is something most people, once they're out in the workforce and once they're a couple for sure, they are addressing. I think they've seen enough and heard enough that they realize they need something. Certainly, there are no death taxes. People think the government's going to come swooping in and grab like 30% of what you have. So they're worried what's going to be left for their families or spouse. And there really isn't for the average family. There's no tax on your home. There's no capital gains. You'd have to tidy up your income tax, so your investments, if they're in a RIF or an RSP, same as if you pulled it out in your lifetime, you'd get taxed on it. Well, when you're gone, it's a deemed disposition. So there's a bit of tax there, but for the average family, it's not much.
It would be probably more, is the word probate, or I don't know the word, more if you don't have a will.
Yeah, it's more complicated. You've got to apply to court, and it could be a contested application. It might be all the family agrees, but it is a little more complex. Again, it's not expensive. Like if you have a will and it has to be probated, that's when it goes to the court and it's approved by the Justice of the Superior Court. And there's a fee to the province of 1.5% of the value of the estate over 50,000, less any mortgages. So it's 1.something%. It's not a big deal.
I'm really curious. Yeah, I'm really curious on that point. What is the cost to have a will done? If say, Denise Reid with her $1 million portfolio came to see you, what would the cost of an average will be? Or is there such a thing as an average cost? There
are some exceptional wills for people, but they're very rare. You know, we live in an area where it's mostly families. Typically for a will and powers of attorney, you're going to pay probably $300 to $500 per person for the whole package, the powers of attorney and the will.
The good news is I didn't get ripped off.
No, it fit into your template.
That was I apologize to the viewers, but that was a very personal question. Does cost scare people, Andrew, do you think? Or the unknown cost, the fact that they don't know until you uttered what an average would cost?
I don't think so. I mean, if you go out for dinner, you're going to spend $100 and some nowadays. You can go, it doesn't go very far. Plus, we try in our business to stress that you don't need to do this frequently, like maybe 2 times in your life, when you're established and young, and then maybe at retirement. You know, sometimes it just needs a little adjustment, in which case you'd be looking at a codicil, $50, $100. You know, maybe your brother was the executor and he's moved to Australia, so you put somebody else in. There could be simple changes, so they shouldn't be worried about the cost, no.
Okay. And finally, from my standpoint, as a professional, are you encouraged or discouraged by the ability of somebody to go online and do it? For example, I have power of attorney and another fellow's will from a friend in Midland, and he did it online. So as a professional, does that discourage you or does that encourage you?
As long as people are getting it done and doing it right, that's great.
Okay.
I've seen some homemade documents that had nice detail, proper spellings, but maybe forgot to say what to do with the estate.
Okay.
That's
probably a whole other show, is horror stories that you see in the wills.
Most of them are pretty good. I mean, if you put somebody in charge and you just say what to do, you're good. You can do what they call a holograph will. And that goes back to Admiralty days with the English Navy in like 1600 whatever. You can just write it out, sign it and date it, no witness, no anything. Hi, Fred's in charge, and leave everything to Denise. That's good. We've probated those.
Sounds good.
There you
to
go.
me.
Which is interesting, because my grandfather, who would have been around in the early 1900s, when he passed, there were a pile of letters where he was the executor or had power of attorney, and they certainly weren't complex. Mm-hmm. Does complexity scare people about some wills?
I think so, because you're looking at about a 10-page document. But all the nuts and bolts are on the first 2 pages. Who's in charge? Who gets the gifts? After that, you're into what I call the tool chest. Things the executor might need. They can deal with a lawsuit, settle if you were killed in an accident. They can collect debts. They can hire an accountant to help them with the taxes. There's a clause we put in every will that says if I make a gift to someone and they inherit from me and they later divorce, they don't have to share that gift. So there's all kinds of things in there. Now there's some caveats to that, but you know, it's there for them. So I call it just a tool chest. So the complexity shouldn't worry them.
Well, I think that, I hope our viewers will understand that it is such a good thing to do. Necessary, not when you're older, just older. As a young couple, just married, or especially I think when you have children, when you do that. And we've offered last week our viewers to send information, like questions, comments, and of course if we get that, then we'll look at your expertise to give us that, and then we can answer that at another time. And that they send it by email, and I just refresh myself here. livingwellgivingwell@rogers.com. So if any of our viewers are looking for a question that they didn't quite get the answer to or whatever, they're more than welcome to send that to us.
And if somebody's watching today, Andrew, how do they contact you?
Well, website, just Google the name, phone number's there. We used to talk about phone books, but now we just say Google it.
Exactly.
But people shouldn't forget, you do get a tax credit if you make a donation, and that helps your estate. And it's a fairly significant tax credit.
Stuart, we'll throw that to you. Do you see it often with Community Foundation Grey Bruce and the various funds that are underneath the umbrella? Do you see people using their wills and provisions to support various charities and organizations?
Yes, and there's a lot of incentive to do that in planning for your estate. There's some benefits that Andrew's describing to avoid capital gains and to mitigate tax. So yes, a lot of people do that. We have a lot of people come to us at early stages in their life to get their plan in place with a fund or or directed giving. We also do direct to donation, so people can, in their will, ask the Community Foundation, for example, to direct gifts to particular charities on their behalf. So that full range of service. People that are interested, willpower.ca is a great resource that has some guides and tools that you can use to begin the journey towards doing your will.
This is Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers TV. I'm Fred Wallace, along with Denise Reid, co-hosting the program. Our guests today are Andrew Drury, barrister and solicitor, along with Stuart Reid, the executive director of the Grey Bruce Community Foundation, or Community Foundation Grey Bruce. And in fact, we're going to find out about Community Foundation Grey Bruce, and then we'll be back on Rogers.
Hi, I'm Stuart Reid, and I'm Executive Director of Community Foundation Grey Bruce. Community Foundation Grey Bruce benefits the community by providing access to community assets through granting. We accept donations from individuals, from families, from organizations, and we pool all those resources, and that creates an asset base that earns money, and the money we earn we spend in grants, and those go directly to the people in the field that are doing all the good work that supports all aspects of community life, from arts and culture to sports and recreation, education, health and well-being, living standards, housing, the whole spectrum of things that impact us in Grey Bruce. Giving to Community Foundation Grey Bruce is pretty easy. You can visit our website and donate online. We're always there at the office if you want to stop by with a check, a traditional form of giving, or even over the phone we can accept donations. What people don't understand is that we can accept all kinds of different aspects of giving, from life insurance to appreciated securities to RIFs, real estate, you name it, we can make it happen in terms of a gift that's going to benefit the community for generations to come. Giving to Community Foundation Grey Bruce, you might want to consider a gift to our Next 25 fund. It was established on our 25th anniversary, and it provides non-restricted funds to the foundation to be able to respond to community needs as they arise, as we learn about through our Vital Signs work. It's a great fund that's growing, where our goal is to raise $1 million in non-restricted reserves that are really going to empower us to act. Community Foundation Grey Bruce is one of about 202 community foundations that dot the landscape across Canada, from coast to coast to coast. Almost 90% of Canadians have access to a community foundation in their area, and we're here for good.
Welcome back to Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers TV. We're talking all about wills today with Andrew Drury, barrister and solicitor from the City of Owen Sound. And also, as you just saw, our guest is Stuart Reid, Executive Director from Community Foundation Grey Bruce. And we thank them for joining us on Living Well, Giving Well. I'm Fred Wallace, along with co-host Denise Reid.
Thanks, Fred. I was interested because what do I need to know, or when I go to my lawyer for my will, what do I need to take? And also, I have a sheet I was told one time to make, so my children or whomever is my power of attorney or whatever knows where my bank accounts are, where my investments are, who my lawyer is, who my doctor is, who my credit cards, whatever. Is that helpful, or do I need to take that to you, or what do we need to do to get started?
Yeah, it's important to put together a package for your executor, assuming it's your family or whoever it is. Sometimes people will choose a bank, for example, if they don't have anyone that's really capable of handling the task. But they should have a go-to letter, as you say, a list of where things are, what they are, passwords to get into your computer, because your bills come to your computer now, or iPad or whatever, and if they don't have that, they don't know. So definitely, if they can organize their thoughts as to what they have and list where the people need to go to find out what they have to deal with that. That is very important. That's a good start. They should have a conversation with their accountant if they're in business. They should have a conversation with their banker or financial advisor. You know, a lot of things you want to roll over to your spouse. There's some tax benefits with that. You know, we were talking about the tax benefits of gifts. You get a credit of about 29% on a gift. So, you know, good reason to put that in your will. So a lot of prep should go into it, yes.
Yeah, better that your family gets it or your organization gets it than the government gets it. That would be my motto, Andrew.
Yes. If you don't have a will, it goes to your family. And we start with spouse. There's a preferential share to a married spouse. Then spouse and children. If there's not that, parents, then siblings. We try to find someone in the family who'll get it. But it's work.
Is the time frame, though, if you have a will established and it's all set, as compared to somebody who doesn't have a will, how long is it a longer time period before things can all get settled?
Yes, there's going to be more complexity, more confusion, and more cost.
Yeah, if you want to avoid that,
Get a will. Yep.
Do we have to itemize everything that we have in our possession in a will? Chairs, tables, cars, everything?
No, I don't think so. You know, the things in your house they're going to know about, you might leave some direction. We call it a memorandum, what to do with your collection of baseball cards, things like that.
Sure.
That's a clause that can actually go in the will. But the high points they need to know, like who is your accountant, who is your insurance person, who do they call, which banks to go to. I know when my grandmother passed away in 90, my dad and I, we really had to look around to find out what was there because she was not going to tell us what she had or where it was. This is Ontario, we don't talk about that.
Right.
So fortunately we knew she kept everything in a freezer bag. And there it was.
And there it was.
Well, you ask. A lot of people keep their important papers in the freezer.
Wow, okay. We did talk about a lot last week of talking to your family and communicating with your family and that. And as we've discussed already, talking about a will is a difficult concept for families to do, but obviously so important.
It is. You know, have that conversation. We don't put burial instructions in a will, typically, because they're not binding. They're not legally binding. So if you want to be buried in a Corvette at Sauble Beach, your executor does not have to do that. But you should let them know.
Break.
Yeah, sorry, Denise. But they should know what your preferences are. I know once upon a time, I'm thinking of my mother-in-law, she was very definite which funeral home she wanted used because she had been to enough funerals, she had quite a preference. You know, just those little things. Let the family know. You don't have to arrange everything, but they should know what you want.
All about wills today. Andrew, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Stuart Reid, Executive Director of Community Foundation Grey Bruce, thanks for joining us. How can people find out about your organization very quickly?
Very quickly, communityfoundationgraybruce.com has got all kinds of resources, or willpower.ca and search for Grey Bruce, and all of the charities that are sponsoring Living Well, Giving Well will pop up, and that's a great group to know about.
Stuart, Andrew, thank you very much for joining us on this edition number 2. Denise of Living Well, Giving Well. We'll be back. Before we go, we want to remind you that you can always email us a question, a comment, a concern at livingwellgivingwell@rogers.com. I'm Fred Wallace along with Denise Reid. Thank you so much for joining us on Living Well, Giving Well on Rogers.
Connect with us by visiting our website or email us at comments@rogerstv.com.
Hi, I'm Tiffany James, the host of Her Story. Join us on Rogers TV as I interview various women in our community on how they found success in their own way.
I battle with addiction of prescription drugs since my mom passed. Please tell God I'm sorry, and I really just want to feel his love right now.